We want to tell you about a meeting between President Biden and congressional leaders late this afternoon at the White House. All this about the fate of approving more foreign and military aid. The president is pushing for Congress to pass what he describes as a national security package, including funding for Ukraine, Israel, and border security. But Republicans, specifically House Republicans, are pushing for sweeping new immigration policy changes in exchange. On a bipartisan basis, Senate negotiators are working to strike a deal on that, but have not yet been successful. Let us bring in CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion for the latest. Nikole, I know it's been a busy afternoon. Catch us up on where things stand.
Well, they stand kind of where they started in that, I don't know if this meeting particularly moved the needle, although congressional leaders, by and large, described this meeting as productive. Let's take a listen to what Speaker Johnson and Leader Chuck Schumer both had to say after this White House meeting.
I told the president what I have been saying for many months, and that is that we must have change at the border, substantive policy change.
It was a very good meeting and a very positive meeting. There was a large amount of agreement around the table that we must do Ukraine and we must do border.
So again, both leaders from opposing sides sounding optimistic. But again, the question is whether the needle was moved at all with respect to this national security supplemental. After all, that is why President Biden called these congressional leaders and members to the White House to try to get the ball moving with respect to this $100 billion plus package that would help Ukraine, that would help Israel and the Hamas war in terms of assisting Israel, but also providing humanitarian assistance to Gaza. It would help the Indo-Pacific and also provide additional funding for border. But again, that border issue, as you heard from both leaders, continues to be the sticking point. Speaker Johnson continuing to make it clear that he believes any kind of deal needs to encompass part of this H.R. 2 package that House Republicans passed many months ago last year. Those are very strict policy changes that Republicans would like to see, although the Senate, including Leader Schumer, has made clear it's dead on arrival there. They're not going to go that far. So the question is whether or not any middle ground was reached in that White House meeting. And as of now, it seems that may not be the case.
So, Nikole, picking up on what the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said, talking about the broad agreement he perceived in that room about Ukraine aid, that would mean the president, he's in support, obviously. The Democratic leadership of the Senate and the House are supportive, as are their membership, and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is supportive. So he's not inaccurate about that, but he sort of glossed over this great sticking point that you described, which is House Republicans and their persistent request for these changes in policy, not just dollars and cents along the border, and that's where all of this appears to hinge, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And there certainly appears to be additional progress with respect to some of the border negotiations that have been ongoing, mostly in the Senate, for well over a month now, so much so that, Leader McConnell suggested even that it was possible they could take the supplemental up as soon as next week, although Leader Schumer earlier told reporters he's not necessarily going to commit to a timeline. So that being said, while there does sound like there could be some progress on this front, again, you have Speaker Johnson drawing a pretty hard line in the sand, and even if some deal is reached or there was some type of consensus reached in this White House meeting, again, the critical issue becomes not what happens to this in the Senate, but what happens in the House, because many members, particularly on the far right side of the Republican conference, have made clear that they are not interested in approving any additional aid to Ukraine, and many are standing firm on moving forward with any type of H.R. 2-like package. We heard from, for instance, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who told reporters today that if Speaker Johnson ends up supporting additional aid to Ukraine, she may invoke this motion to vacate, which was that same tool that we saw used to oust Speaker McCarthy last year. So there's a lot riding on this. And again, it will become a matter of whether any kind of deal ultimately will be palatable not only in the Senate, but here in the House.
Coming to us from Capitol Hill with the latest, Nikole Killion. We thank you.